Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, 53a of Maseches Kiddushin. We are starting from 9 lines down on the page, beginning of the line where it says Meiser Sheni. So the Gemara quotes the Mishnah. The Mishnah had said, Meiser Sheni, that if a man tries to betroth a woman with Meiser Sheni again is a tithe that's taken in years 1, 2, 4, and 5 of Shemitah, and this tithe is not given to anyone. It's actually, the produce is tithed, and then it has to be consumed in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, and there's an option to redeem it if you don't want to schlep it all to Yerushalayim, but that's the status of this produce. So it's called Meiser Sheni, and let's say a man takes that Meiser Sheni and tries to give it to a woman for Kiddushin. The question really hinges on whether is it his or is it, consecrated and it doesn't belong to him, so it won't work for Kiddushin. So the Mishnah said, and the Gemara is quoting it, Meiser Sheni, bein b'shogeg, bein b'mezid. Whether he gave it unknowing, he didn't realize that it was Meiser Sheni, he forgot or something, bein b'mezid, or whether he knew, it was intentional, Lo Kiddush, it's not Kiddushin. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds it's not his, so it doesn't work for Kiddushin. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, Shogeg Lo Kiddush. If he did it by accident, it's not Kiddushin. Meaning if they didn't know, he didn't know, she didn't know, they didn't know that it was Meiser Sheni, then it's not Kiddushin. Mezid Kiddush, but if it was intentional and they knew, so then it is Kiddushin. It seems that that Rabbi Yehuda would hold that it belongs to him. And yet, if he didn't know, though, then that would be a different story, because it would be unintentional, it would be by mistake. They might prefer not to use Meiser Sheni. So the Gemara will discuss that a little bit, why when it's shogeg, when it's unknown, unwittingly, then it's not Kiddushin. Okay, but for now, we're first going to examine the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who says that either way it's not Kiddushin. So the Gemara asks me, Nahani Mili, from where is this learned? How do we know that if you try to give Kiddushin with Meiser Sheni, it doesn't work? So again, according to Rabbi Meir. So Amar Rav Acha, Brei de Rava, Mishmei de Gemara. Rav Acha, the son of Rava, said in the name of Gemara, of a tradition. He quoted the pasuk. The verse says, V'chol ma'asar ha'aretz. And all the tithe of the land, mizera haaretz, from the seed of the land, mipriyaitz, from the fruit of the tree. This refers to grapes and olives. So, la'ashemu, it's for God. La'ashemhu kodesh la'ashem. It's for God. It is kodesh. It is holy before God. For God. So, and it's talking here about Meiser Sheni, this tithe. And the Gemara infers that Hashemhu, it is for God, v'lo l'kadesh bo isha, and not to be used to be mekadesh a woman. So how do we know that it doesn't work for Kiddushin? It says Hashemhu, it's for God and not for, and we infer from that, but not for Kiddushin. Again, it's not like it's being brought as a carbon or donated or anything, but it's being consumed in Yerushalayim, but it still gets this status. It's Lashem, it's for God, so it sounds like it belongs to the, it's holy, and it's not considered the owner's, and you can't use it for Kiddushin. The Gemara asks, Hare Trumas Meiser, but what about Trumas Meiser? Trumas Meiser is that there's a requirement of Truma on produce, to take a portion and give it to a Kohen. There's also a requirement for Meiser Rishon. We've been talking about Meiser Sheni. Meiser Rishon is where you tithe your produce and give it to a Levi. Now the Levi just got this produce. He has to now take Truma from it to give to a Kohen. So that's called Trumas Meiser. So the Gemara says, but Trumas Meiser dichsiv. The verse says, Kain tarimu gamatem Trumas Hashem. You too should, meaning the Levi who got his Meiser, should also take Truma. Trumas Hashem, the Truma of God, to give it to a Kohen. Utnan, and yet the Mishnah says, Hamakadesh b'truma, mikudeshes. If you use truma for Kiddushin, there's a Mishnah later, then it works. So we're saying that Meiser Sheni doesn't work for Kiddushin because it says La Hashemhu, it's for God. Well, by Truma it also says it's Trumas Hashem, it's the Truma of God. So why does it work for Kiddushin? The Mishnah, it says it works. So the Gemara answers, Delo ksiv be la Hashem. It doesn't say it's for God, it says the Truma of God. Meaning it's the Truma that God commands to take, but it doesn't say that it belongs to God, in that we can infer, but you can't use it for Kiddushin. No, it just says Trumas Hashem, the Truma of God. V'harei chala. But what about chala? The requirements separate chala. It's a type of Truma from dough. Dichsiba, that it says with regards to challah, titnu la Hashem. You should give it to Hashem. The verse says from the first of your kneading bowls, you should give it to Hashem. Utanan, and yet we have a Mishnah that says Amakadosh b'trumos mikudeshes. That if you give Kiddushin with trumos, again, challah being a type of truma, the Kiddushin works. So it sounds like even for challah, Kiddushin works, even though it says La Hashem, it's for God. So the Gemara says, Delo ksiv be kodesh. It doesn't say it's kodesh La Hashem. It doesn't say it's holy unto God. It just says La Hashem, it is for God, and we're only inferring when it says Kodesh Hashem, it's holy to God, but you can't use it. But just as it's La Hashem, it's for God. But so from there, it's not as restricting as if it could say Kodesh Hashem, it's holy for God. So only Meiser Sheni, which says Kodesh Hashem, only that cannot be used for Kiddushin. The Gemara asks, V'harei shvius. What about Shemitah crops from the sabbatical year? Dichsiba, about those fruit, it says Yovel hi. It's a Yovel, it's a Jubilee year. So this is, I guess, about the Yovel, but it's the equivalent of Shemitah, the halachos. Kodesh tia lachem. It should be holy to you. So it says holy. So Utnaham Akadosh b'peir shvius mikudeshes. But yet we have a Mishnah, the last Mishnah that we learned, that not this last one, but the previous one, which had that story with the guy who betrothed multiple women from Peir Shemitah, and there it didn't work for the sisters, but it worked for everybody else. So you see, you could be Makadesh with Peiros of Shvius, with fruit of Shemitah, even though it says Kodesh. So the Gemara says, yeah, Delo ksiv be la Hashem, but it doesn't say Kodesh la Hashem, it just says Kodesh, Tia lachem, it should be holy for you. It doesn't say la Hashem, so there's no inference that you can't use it for Kiddushin. V'harei Truma, but what about regular Truma? Dichsiv Kodesh Yisrael la Hashem. Israel, the nation Israel is Kodesh, is holy unto God. Reishis Tvuasa, they are the first of his produce. They are his Truma. Utanang, and yet we have a Mishnah, Hamakadosh b'Truma mikudeshes. That if you give Kiddushin with Truma, it works. But there it says, Kodesh la Hashem, holy to God. It has both words, Kodesh and la Hashem. So why does the Kiddushin work? We should infer that you can't use it for Kiddushin. So the Gemara says, no, Hahu bi Yisrael ksiv. When he says Kodesh la Hashem, it's not talking about the food. The Truma, it's talking about Israel. I'm just comparing Israel to Truma. It says, Kodesh Yisrael la Hashem. Israel is Kodesh to Hashem. Reishis to us, so they are the first of his produce. So it's only Israel that's compared to, that has these words Kodesh la Hashem, but the Truma itself doesn't. So that's why Truma you can still use for Kiddushin. The Gemara asks, top of the next page, V'lav memela shamas mina, but can't you learn from there, based on this comparison, that it's true for Truma also? Because it's saying, Israel is Kodesh la Hashem like Truma. So it's saying that Truma is also Kodesh la Hashem. So Truma, you should not be able to use for Kiddushin. So the Gemara says, Tirgama Ravin Saba Kamei Rav. Ravin, the elderly Ravin, answered before Rav. There's one more word that it says by Meiser, which is important. Amarkra, who. By Meiser Sheni, it says who. It says, It doesn't just say Kodesh, it doesn't just say LaHashem. It says LaHashem Hu Kodesh LaHashem. It says it's for God, it is Kodesh LaHashem. So what is that extra word Hu doing there? Says the Gemara B'Havayaso Yehei. The word Hu teaches me that it remains in its state, meaning that it maintains its holiness, so it can't be given as Kiddushin. So that word tells us to specifically by Meiser Sheni that it has to remain in its state as holy, and unless it's redeemed, but it can't just be given for Kiddushin because it says LaHashem Hu. It is, and that implies that it should remain that way and can't be given for Kiddushin. Okay. So that's how Rabbi Meir understands, how he knows that Meiser Sheni cannot be used for Kiddushin. It says Kodesh, it says it's LaHashem, Hu Kodesh LaHashem, and we learn from there that it is for God. It's like the property of it's sacred property, and it can't be used for Kiddushin. Okay. Now we'll come back in a moment to discuss the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who said that when it's done b'shogeg, when Meiser Sheni is given b'shogeg, given unwittingly, that they didn't realize it was Meiser Sheni, then it's not Kiddushin. But if it's been mazed, if it's intentional, it is Kiddushin. We're going to come back to that opinion in a moment, but we're going to contrast it with the next part of the Mishnah. The next part of the Mishnah says, and third line of the Gemara, and in Gimel on the base, 53b, it says, Uvehektish, if you're dealing with consecrated property, so somebody consecrates their money to the temple, to the Beis HaMikdash, and then they take that money and they use it for Kiddushin. So then the Mishnah said, B'mezid Kiddush. If he did it on purpose, it works for Kiddushin. B'shogeg, but if it was unintentional, lo Kiddush, it does not work for Kiddushin. Divrei Rabbi Meir. That is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. So we're talking about, so again, he consecrated property, and to the temple, he pledged it, and consecrated it, so then if he used it for Kiddushin, so he has, I guess, been mal, he's misappropriated, but that takes away its Kiddushin, its holiness, and the Kiddushin would work if it was intentional. But if it's unintentional, so then the Kiddushin doesn't work. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, B'shogeg Kiddush, if it's unintentional, it works. B'mezid lo Kiddush. But if it's intentional, so then it does not work. So the Gemara will get into these opinions. So, Amar Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yaakov said, Shamis minei Rabbi Yochanan tarti. I heard two things from Rabbi Yochanan. Shigagas meiser Rabbi Yehuda. I heard an explanation for Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that when it comes to Meiser Sheni, if the Meiser Sheni is given for Kiddushin, b'shogeg, unintentionally, it works. Right? That was the opinion that we were supposed to come back to, that Rabbi Yehuda held that, sorry, it doesn't work. If it was shogeg lo kiddush, mezid kiddush. Rabbi Yehuda held, if you take Meiser Sheni, again, these produce that you're supposed to bring to Yerushalayim, and instead you give it to a woman for Kiddushin, if you forgot, if you didn't realize it was Meiser Sheni, so the Kiddushin does not work. But if you realized and you did it on purpose, the Kiddushin works. Because Rabbi Yehuda holds it's his, it belongs to him, so it works for Kiddushin. Why doesn't it work if it's unintentional? So that's what he heard from Rabbi Yochanan. I heard two things. I heard the explanation for why when you give Meiser b'shogeg, Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't work. And Shigigas Hektish to Rabbi Meir. And I heard an explanation for Rabbi Meir when it comes to Hektish. Rabbi Meir said, if you give it on purpose, it's Kiddushin. If you give it b'shogeg, it's not Kiddushin. So I heard an explanation for why it's not Kiddushin according to Rabbi Meir when it's done b'shogeg, when it's done unwittingly. when hektish is given unwittingly. Both of them, the halacha that they stated was that there's no Kiddushin here. Rabbi Yehuda said it by Meiser Sheni, where Meiser Sheni is given unwittingly, unknowingly, it's not Kiddushin. Rabbi Meir said it about hektish. When hektish is given unwittingly, it's not Kiddushin. I heard two explanations, he says. Chada, one of them was, meaning he's going to say, I heard an explanation for each of them, but I don't know which one is for which. So Chada, Lifi she'ein isha rotze. One of them, the explanation was because the woman doesn't want it. The reason why, if it was given by accident, and then they realized that it was either hektish or meiser sheni after the fact, the kiddushin doesn't work because the woman would not want it. She would not want either meiser sheni or hektish. V'chadu lefi she'ein shneim rotzim. And for the other one, I heard he said that it's because neither of them would want it. V'lo yadana hayminayu. But I don't know which one's which. I don't know which one. Was it that we have that Meiser Sheni doesn't work when given B'shogeg, when given unknowingly, and Hektish doesn't work when given unknowingly. And one of them was because she's not going to want it when she finds out, and so it's like a Mekach Tos, it's done in error. And one of them was because neither of them would want it. But I don't remember which one was which. So Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, said, Nechzianan. He said, let's examine this. Meiser, when it comes to Meiser Sheni, so Meiser Sheni, he gives her this produce. What does she have to do with it? She has to bring it to Yerushalayim to eat it. Ihi lo nichala. She's not going to want it, mishum tircha de urcha, because that's going to be a very troublesome journey. So when she finds out it's Meiser Sheni, she might say, wait a second, I did not agree to this. I thought this was regular produce, not Meiser Sheni produce. You're telling me I have to bring this all the way to Yerushalayim. I renege on the Kiddushin. So it won't be a good Kiddushin from the outset. But him, nichole, denikni itza memela. But he's happy to use, some produce, something that he doesn't fully own, save him the trip, and so he's happy for it. So when he finds out it's Meiser Sheni, he's totally fine with it. So Rabbi Yirmiyah is suggesting that when Rabbi Yochanan said that one of the cases doesn't work specifically because the woman doesn't want it, that's probably Meiser Sheni, because she's not going to want to have to schlep to Yerushalayim to eat this produce. She's not interested in this produce then. And the guy is like, great, he's happy to get rid of it. Ela hektish. But if we're talking about hektish, so he took his consecrated item and gave it to her, tarvayu lo nichalahu. And then they found out, he didn't realize, he forgot, and then they find out that it's hektish. Neither of them want it. Tarvayu lo nichalahu. Did not chil hektish al yadayu. Neither of them would want to be mechalel, to deconsecrate. I don't know if that's a word, but it sounds like a nice word. To deconsecrate the hektish, be'isr, this is prohibited, but it would work, but they won't. It's something that they won't be allowed to do. Neither of them would want to do it. So it's called me'ila. It's a misappropriation of hektish. So neither of them would want it to be effective. If it's effective, so then they've been mechalet, they've deconsecrated it. So when they find out that actually it was hektish, neither of them would want it. So the case, says Rabbi Yirmiyah, that Rabbi Yochanan must have said that neither of them want it, must be the case of hektish. So the Gemara is wondering, that seems like a pretty straightforward explanation. So why was Rabbi Yaakov unsure in the first place? He said, I heard two things from Rabbi Meir, from Rabbi Yochanan, I didn't know which one was about which. So the Gemara explains, for Rabbi Yaakov Amar, and Rabbi Yaakov would say, Ipcha mistabra. The opposite is logical, or at least reasonable. Some of the gear say here, Atu Ipcha Milo mistabra. Isn't the opposite also possible? You could have said like this, Milo Ikol Meimar. Couldn't you have said, Meiser, when it comes to Meiser Sheni, Ilo Nichala Mishum Tircha de Orcha. Again, he gave her Meiser Sheni unknowing, and then they found out. So she's not happy because it means she's going to have to schlep to Yerushalayim to eat it. But he's also not happy, mishum unsa d'orcha, because all sorts of things can happen to her on the way. And, she could get, anything can happen to her. But even if she comes out, she survives, but she might be very angry at something that happens on the way. So that's not how he wants to start off the marriage. So once they find out that it's Meiser Sheni, neither of them will approve of it. They don't want the Kiddushin to be with Meiser Sheni. Ela Hektish, but if it was done with Hektish, with consecrated property, you could have said, Bishlama ihi lo nichola. So she has no interest in Aschil Hektish al Yada. She doesn't want Hektish to be deconsecrated, by her accepting the Kiddushin. What benefit is that to her? She would want him to give her different money for Kiddushin. Why does she need the money that used to be Hektish? Give me a nice new ring. Right? So she has no interest in the Hektish. Elaihu, but him, Milo Nichole Denikni Itza Memela. Isn't he happy to acquire a woman without it costing him anything? Because it's not his. Now he will have to pay back Hektish, but at the moment he's not losing anything. He'll have to pay back, but at the moment he doesn't lose anything. So he would be happy for it to be Kiddushin, potentially. So Rabbi Yaakov wasn't sure which one was the case where neither of them would be happy, which one was the case where one of them would be happy. What's the practical difference? Why does it matter? Either way, it's not Kiddushin. What would matter is if we would ask her, is she okay? How does she feel about it? And she says it's fine. So do we still have to ask him, or do we assume that he's okay with it? So whichever one we're assuming that he's okay with it, we wouldn't have to ask him. We would assume that it's a good Kiddushin as long as she approves. But the one that we're assuming that neither of them are happy with, so then we have to, even if she says it's okay, we have to ask him too. So that's the practical difference. And again, the Gemara has both sides to consider. Which is the case where we assume that only she wouldn't be happy with it and therefore it's no good, unless she approves. And which is the case that we assume that they're both unhappy and we would have to get both of their approval before allowing it to go through. Okay, the Gemara asks, Ba mine Rava me Rav Chisda. Rava asked a question from Rav Chisda. Isha ein miskadeshes. So fine, the woman is not mikudeshes. But Mos Maushi Yatzu Chulin. But what about the money? Would the money become deconsecrated? So the case, the Gemara is asking within Rabbi Meir's opinion. Rabbi Meir said that in the case that of Hektish, consecrated property, and he gave it to her bishogig, not knowing that it was Hektish, so lo Kiddush, the Kiddushin doesn't work. So the Gemara wants to know, fine, the Kiddushin doesn't work, but does it take effect that the money is deconsecrated? So, Amarle, so that was a question that Rava asked Rav Chisda. Amarle, so Rav Chisda answered, Ishaim miskadeshes, Mos hech yotzu l'chulin. If the woman is not mikudeshes, if the Kiddushin didn't work, that means she didn't get it. It never was used. So why would the money be deconsecrated? It's remaining in its original state. Nothing changed about the money. That was the answer that he gave. Ba minei Rav Chia bar Aving me Rav Chisda. Rav Chia bar Aving asked Rav Chisda, Bin mecher mai. What about a purchase? A person buys an item with money from Hektish. Bishogig, he forgot that the money was Hektish. Does that work? And it's asking within Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir said the Kiddushin won't work because they're not happy to, either she's not happy or neither of them are happy that the money should be used, that Hektish money should be used for Kiddushin. And deconsecrated at their hand. What about for a sale? If somebody uses hektish money to buy something. So does the sale work? So Amar Lei, so Rav Chia bar Avin answered, Af b'mecher lo kana. It doesn't work. Even by a sale, it doesn't work, and the money remains hektish, and the sale doesn't take effect. Right? Somebody tried to use hektish money, the sale doesn't take effect, and the money remains hektish. Eisvei, they asked a contradiction on this from a Brisa. The Brisa says, or it might be a Mishnah actually, a Mishnah in Me'ila, I think. So the Mishnah says, Chenveni kibal abayis. Rashi says it's a Mishnah. The Mishnah there, just to give the background, Rashi gives us the background. The background is that you have a Gizbar. A Gizbar is a treasurer. The treasurer of the Beis HaMikdash, of the temple coffers. And he gives money to a money lender, a money changer. So the question is, what is the money changer expecting from when the Gizbar, when the treasurer of the Beis HaMikdash gives him money? What is the money lender assuming that the treasurer wants him to do with this? He's supposed to use this money or just store it like a bank. So the Brisa says, or the Mishnah says that it depends. If the money is bound up, it's tied, so then that implies he's not supposed to use it. If he's not supposed to use it, and he does, so he's the one who misappropriated it. It's hektish money. The money changer is the one who misappropriated it. If the money was untied and free, and the Gizbar, the treasurer, gave it to him, so then the money lender will assume, again, he doesn't know that this is hektish. Now, again, I don't think I mentioned that. I think that's the case. He doesn't know that it's hektish. So, and the lender doesn't either. The Gizbar, the treasurer. So, I think it's where he doesn't realize. I'm not 100% sure. It may not make a difference for us, but the bottom line is the money changer receives money from the Gizbar, from the treasurer of the temple. If it's a tied purse, that implies he's just supposed to keep it. He shouldn't be using it. If he uses it, it's his fault. So he's the one who misappropriated. But if it's untied and available, so then that implies, that's what a money lender does. He a money changer. He moves money. So that implies the Gizbar is expecting him to use it, and he's almost like the agent of the Gizbar. Bottom line is that if he uses it and misappropriates it, it's the Gizbar's fault. It's the treasurer's fault. He's the one who was Mo'al. That's in the case of a money changer. But in the case of a Baal Bais, if it's just a house, a regular guy, and the Gizbar gives the regular guy money from hektish, so whether it's tied or whether it's not, there's no expectation that he should spend it. He's just a Baal Bais. He's just a homeowner, and so he should not use the money. And if he does, it's his own fault, and he's always Mo'al, he's always the one who misappropriated it. So that's comparing a homeowner to a money lender. What about a store owner, a chenveni? Who is he like? Is he like the money changer, or is he like the homeowner? So that's what the Mishnah discusses. The Mishnah says, chenveni, back to the Gemara now, chenveni kebal abayis. A store owner is like a bal abayis. He's like a homeowner. Divrei Rabbi Meir, that's the opinion of Rabbi Meir, and therefore he should not be using it. If he does use the money, he's the one who is Ma'ah. He's the one who transgresses Me'ilah. Rabbi Yehuda says, Chenveni kishulchani. No, the store owner is like the money lender, the money changer. And so it would depend if the money is rolled up, not rolled up, that would determine whether he's who is the one who's misappropriating it. Now the Gemara says, Ad kan lo kamifulgi. Up until now, all that they're arguing about is the following. El demar savar chenveni kishulchani. One opinion holds that the store owner is like the money lender. Umar savar chenveni kabal bais. The other one holds he's like the homeowner. Aval de kuliyama, but everybody agrees, im hotzi, if he would use the money, ma, that it's me'ila, that it's a misappropriation of hektish. Well, hold on a second. How could you misappropriate money according to Rabbi Meir? At least, Rabbi Meir was of the opinion that when it came to Kiddushin, our Mishnah said, that if you use hektish for Kiddushin, bishogig, unwittingly, unknowingly, it's not Kiddushin. And it doesn't work at all. And the money remains hektish. And the Gemara asking, what about for a sale? If you use money for a sale, that's hektish, does that, is it kana? Does it work? And the Gemara said, no, it's not. It's not kana. And therefore, if the transaction doesn't work, it remains as hektish. But here we're saying that if the store owner uses the money, it's me'ila. But why? It should just remain hektish. That's what we're saying. When you use money to buy money of hektish to buy something, it doesn't work, and it remains hektish. So how come over here it seems at least that Rabbi Meir is holding that it is considered me'ila. If the store owner would use this money, it would be me'ila. So the Gemara answers with dvar of Rabbi Yehuda ka'amar. No, Rabbi Meir was just speaking within the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. He was responding to Rabbi Yehuda, and he was saying, "Lididi, according to me, hotzina milama. Even if he spent the money, it's not me'ila. It doesn't work. If he uses the money, it doesn't work, and it's not me'ila. Me'ila would only be if you actually consume something. You can't have me'ila, I guess, with money. You can only have it with food or something. You have to actually benefit directly, but to try to spend it just wouldn't work to spend it. But it wouldn't be me'ila because it didn't work. That's what Rabbi Meir holds. But you, Rabbi Yehuda, who hold that when you spend money of hektish, it does work. Well, he says, at least admit to me that the store owner has the same status as the Baal Abayis, as a homeowner. And he said back, and Rabbi Yehuda responded that no, the store owner is like a shulchani, and his right sort of to use the money would depend on if the money is bound up or not. So Rabbi Meir was really saying, according to me, there's no me'ila here whatsoever, because you can't have me'ila by spending money of hektish because it just doesn't work and it just remains in the coffin. It remains as the possessions of hektish. You have to actually benefit from it somehow to transgress me'ila. But Rabbi Meir was saying to Rabbi Yehuda, you who hold that you could have me'ila, well, at least admit that that a store owner should be like a Baal Abayis, and it should be his fault whether the money's rolled up, whether it's not. And Rabbi Yehuda said, no, a store owner is like a shulchani, like a money changer, and it would only be considered his fault if the money was rolled up. But if it was open and available and he used it, that would be the fault of the guy of the gizbar, of the treasurer who gave it to him. Okay, we'll resume here next time. Here at Hashem.